You are listening to the WillPower Podcast. Welcome to the show. I am Will Holdren, and I talk with some of the most influential CEOs, entrepreneurial leaders, and thought leaders to reveal the secrets that have led to their success. I believe that with the right knowledge and mindset, you can do anything you say your mind to. So if you want to learn how to change your life for the better, if you want to learn how millionaires actually became wealthy, or if you want to develop and start your own business from the ground up with the right knowledge to help you, then you are in the right place because this is the WillPower Podcast. How's it going, everyone? My name is Will Holdren. I am the host of the WillPower Podcast. Today we have another amazing entrepreneur based out of the Utah market. He's also a Christian-based entrepreneur, and his name is Parker Vassau. And Parker is actually, like I mentioned, a Christian real estate entrepreneur. He has over 27 rental units at just about 31 years of age, which is absolutely incredible. So we're definitely going to tap into his expertise on that. On top of that, he is also a sales leader with a company called Point Marketing, and they are really focused on door-to-door sales and actually the pest control industry, which is incredible. And him and his team have over 150 sales reps. So just an amazing story for a young Christian entrepreneur. I absolutely love having people like this on the podcast. So first and foremost, Parker, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This will be fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. I know we spoke to Blake a little bit before, and obviously he's the one that introduced us. So I'm really excited to jump into your story as well. And so starting off, I want to ask you a question that I pretty much ask all of my podcast guests, which is one, what makes you want to take time out of your crazy busy day hopping on podcasts like these to really just go out there and share your story?
Yeah, good question. I think the thing that gets me up in the morning nowadays in my life is I want to help other people win, like I've had some success and found some formulas in my life that have worked for me, and I want to go help other people go and win now. I love that Zig Ziglar quote where it says, if you help enough people get what they want in life, then you'll kind of inevitably get what you want in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think probably the biggest reason why I like to jump on these is I just want to give back and help. And then also, like, selfishly, like I want to build a brand. It's a new focus for me in my life. I've been like logged off of Instagram and a lot of social media for a long time, and I re-downloaded Instagram about a year ago.
Nice.
And my main reason is I just recently have decided that I care about having reach and being able to tell my story, and I want to build a brand. So that's probably the other selfish reason.
Yeah, I'm selfish for good reasons though, right? Spreading the word
Yeah.
and obviously sharing how you got to where you are today. I mean, it's incredible. You're 31 years old and you've already done so much, which I just absolutely love. You're really just accomplishing the American dream. I think a lot of people when they're growing up, like, I want to do that. I want to have all these rental properties. I want to be a successful business owner and just be successful at the end of the day. So in your story, have you always been an entrepreneur? And when did you really get started going in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, good question. I always knew that I would have to take kind of an underdog, different approach to creating wealth. I was not school for me, like high school for me was tricky. I didn't get amazing. I guess I got decent grades, but like my ACT scores are like the lowest of anyone that I met, and I took the test twice just to like make sure the first time wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like school, I didn't get my confidence growing up in school. I got it from playing sports.
Yeah.
And, in playing sports growing up, I learned that I was pretty tough and that I was a good teammate. And so I learned all those types of life lessons through sports growing up. When I got into college, I don't know, I felt like I was going to have to take a little bit of a different path than just, formal education and go and work like a hard set skill job in my life. And so being an entrepreneur for me I almost felt like I needed to go that path out of necessity. The formula for me that's worked is sales and leadership, like driving revenue, helping others drive revenue, and then investing my money along the way. And so sales, leadership, and investing in real estate specifically for me has been the path that helped me create some wealth in my 20s.
Yeah, and obviously it's paid off early on in
Yeah.
the study so far. But yeah, one of the things I want to touch on, you mentioned you went to college, right? Even though you really wanted to go down that entrepreneurship route. So I'm curious, did you end up following through with college, getting a degree, or did you end up dropping out, going into business ownership, or how did that play out for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did finish. I studied marketing and I went to BYU,
Okay.
but and which this sounds a little bit like punk rock of me, but I do not feel like I owe a lot of my success to my formal education.
Yeah.
Like I owe a lot of what I've accomplished to getting self-educated along the way, meaning books, mentors, kind of like learning by doing more so.
Hmm.
And so, in fact, I have a story I tell sometimes. So I worked in summer sales while I was in college. It was like the way that I paid for college. It was the way that initially it was to pay for college, and then it grew into a vehicle to help me buy real estate at a young age. But a story that I tell sometimes is between my junior and senior year, I bought a rental property. I bought a fourplex, and I lived in that one of the four units of the fourplex while I was finishing college. And I just caught the bug, and I could see, wow, like I want to do this, and I want to be a salesperson, lead other salespeople, and I want to buy real estate.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't go to my college graduation because I was so hungry to go out for my next summer and sell pest control door to door
Oh
that
wow.
I sold 7 on the day that like my graduation was supposed to be happening, and I had people texting me like, "Where are you, dude?" And this thought came into my head that day that was like, my degree is not going to save me. Like in this new economy and in today's world, like I believe that people need to get self-educated, especially if they're not the brightest
Yeah.
like me. So I don't know. I felt like I needed to always take a different path.
Yeah, and I think that's very true and very inspiring because I think a lot of people that want to go in entrepreneurship, they either think it's either I don't go to college, I go straight from high school and really start something brand new out of high school, and it's really scary, really risky when you do that.
Yeah.
Or like what you said, you can still go to college and still
Yep.
pursue entrepreneurship kind of goals and dreams on the side while you're building it up, and
Right.
eventually you can still do both at the same exact time. It can still work out in the same way. So I think
Yep.
that's a good reference for your story right there. And obviously it's paid out, right? So
Yeah.
when you graduated college, did you continue doing point marketing full time? Is that the first
Yeah.
business you kind of grew into?
Yeah. So I started working with them. I did some other jobs, kind of like they got me like halfway through college, and then I started working with these guys the last couple years of college, and I picked up momentum and ended up continuing to work with them. We kind of restructured and repositioned along the way. A couple years after I graduated, they sold. Um, we kind of helped the two owners of the business. They sold their business and took some money off the table, and we restructured. And I became a partner in that company in kind of a second wave. And so the last 4 or 5 years, that's what we've been up to. And so I kind of planted my flag um, 4 or 5 years ago and became a partner. And so now we're kind of building some
Wow.
new locations out and have restructured. So yeah, I've been here 7, 8 years now, and don't plan on going anywhere new anytime soon. So
Yeah, no, I think that's super incredible. I think it's also very rare to find someone that kind of the first biz they go into kind of pops off, right? And it kind of works out better than they thought down the road. So I'm kind of curious, did you have any moments with this company where like, I don't know if this is gonna work, this is scary, like it looks like it's gonna fail, or is it just kind of smooth sailing for you and obviously just grow to where you're at now?
I mean, I would be lying if I said that it's always been perfect, but I came here and really have chosen to stay because I found a mentor and a couple mentors really here that I looked up to. I loved the way that they lived their lives. And I've
Mhm.
always felt like there's that value gap. Like, if I just stay on this ship and keep following these men, that I will probably win, you know,
Yeah.
and become a better version of myself along the way. So, um, Yeah, like it hasn't always been perfect, but I would say I've never, I haven't been super close to leaving ever. Like
Yeah.
I've kind of, this has always been the where I've been. And I don't know that this will be the thing forever for me, but for now, for the next couple of years, we've got a plan to hit some goals and some targets that we're chasing. So
Yeah. And you found mentorship early on, which I think is so crucial to, future success. And I love
yeah,
what you said earlier. I think the whole idea behind, business and sales and leadership is really growing, generating something that can give you cash income that you can then put into a passive investment like real estate. So however someone can kind of create that early on that cash flow just to pour into real estate, I think that's obviously the golden ticket and the best way to do that. Which to me is cool to see in your story because you were young when you first got
yeah,
started in real estate and you kind of had that discipline early on, like, okay, I'm going to make this money, but I'm not just going to go out there and blow it like a normal college kid would, right? I'm going to be smart about it. I'm going to put that in real estate. So talk to me a little bit. How did you really develop that mindset and that discipline at such a young age?
yeah. I had a mentor. Like I said, I feel like I owe a lot of my success to mentors and to, um, kind of going and exploring myself, reading books and things like that. I had a mentor sit me down when I was 22 or 23 years old, and he basically said, "Hey, like the most simple way that I know to create wealth is to buy a home every year and commit to that path for like 7 to 10 years. So work really hard at your day job, be a saver, buy a home every year for 7 to 10 years. And if you do that, you will look back and you will have massive appreciation, massive equity, and cash flow from those rental properties." And to be honest with you, I that day I went home, sat down with my wife, and we just fully committed. Like we're gonna go do that because again, I felt like I don't know what my thing is. I don't know what makes me special. I don't feel like I'm the smartest person out there, but I know I'm a super hard worker. I can sell, and um, and if it's a simple way to create wealth, like sign me up. And so, really, that's our story. Is most of our 20s we were buying a building, living in it for a while. When we saved up enough money through a sales job, through my sales job, we would go and buy another one and then rent out the first one. And so we just house hacked our way through a bunch of rental units in our 20s.
Yeah.
And so it started with a fourplex, then went to a duplex, then another duplex, and we just one at a time, just one base hit at a time, took down some rental properties, and
Yeah.
that laid a foundation for us that we're to this day super grateful for, and it's allowed for a lot of peace and freedom. So
Right. Right. I know you mentioned that 7 to 8 years, 10 years, maybe you stick with that. You look back
yeah,
and get a ton of appreciation of the equity. So in your position now, like 10 years in the future, right? Looking back, has that all come to fruition for you, would you say?
yeah. I tell my salespeople all the time, and just people that are 20 years old that are like interested in taking kind of a similar path as I have. A lot of times we underestimate where we can be in 5 to 7 years or whatever if we just make really good decisions short term.
Yeah.
And that's where it's now being 31 years old and looking back over the last 7 to 10 years or whatever, right? Like I can confidently say that it's worth it, right? Like short-term sacrifices yield amazing blessings and returns long term if we will just delay gratification. So it
Yeah.
was a ton of sacrifice. Like we moved every summer. I would move my family out, my wife out with me to a market. I would manage a team of reps selling pest control door to door. I would go sell a bunch of accounts in the summer, and we'd move to some place, do that all summer long, come home, recruit new teams, and it was just kind of this process we would follow year over year. And every time we'd come back home, we would move into a new rental property that we would buy and live in that place for the year until next summer rolled around, and we would go out the next summer and sell in the new location, right? So that was the formula and the path that we took to create wealth and become millionaires in our 20s.
That's crazy. And that's so amazing, right? And the crazy thing is I think a lot of people understand that if you just go into real estate or like focus on buying investment properties down the road, like it's really going to pay off for you. But so many people just can't control like that short-term desire, and they lack that discipline short term to really just put themselves in a position to just win down the road. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think I personally have seen that. Like it's just a challenge for a lot of these people. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, delaying gratification is a really hard thing to buy into. It's that whole like marshmallow Stanford experiment. I don't know if you've heard of, where it's like they put one marshmallow in front of a kid and say, "Hey, if you wait X amount of time, then we'll come back with another marshmallow, in 10 minutes or whatever." And it takes, as humans, like even as adults, right? For children, it's really hard. But for adults, like it's still really hard. It's hard to not go buy the nice car when you make your first 30, 50 grand and you have that laying around,
Right.
because a lot of us have egos and we want to show like results of our hard work and of our progress. And so there were a lot of years where we made six figures and we were in our mid 20s and no one knew, because the only evidence that we had for it was this crappy new building that we owned, that we lived in. And
Yeah.
which I always felt like was a flex. Like I thought it was really cool, but like I think a lot of people would look at that and say, "Man, like I would just that sounds too grindy, too unsexy."
Right.
So
But I think, like you said, it's absolutely a flex when you can say, I own this property. You know what I mean? I'm not renting. I think that the
yeah,
stats today are staggering too. I think I saw a stat like 50% of 18 to 29-year-olds are still living at home, like with their parents or something. Like it's
yeah, yeah,
astounding. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I think that's embarrassing. Like I think that it's irresponsible. It's just irresponsible. There's so many resources in our country to go and put some money away if you'll just be disciplined, and you don't have to be a crazy person and live like this forever, right? It just asks for, uh, you know, success asks for just a period of time where you grind and you go all in. And if you'll do that for a period of time, then you can kind of reap rewards for the rest of your life. But I just think it's irresponsible living in America and not finding success. Like I lived in Eastern Europe for 2 years when I was a missionary in my late teens, and I lived in Bulgaria for 2 years. And when I came home from missionary service, it was so obvious to me how many opportunities there are in America. Like it was just like I'm all in. Like I'm so blessed to be an American and have these opportunities. Where in some countries, the most entrepreneurial thing you can do is go start a bread shop on the street corner. Like
geez. Yeah. And real quick, guys, before we go on to the next topic, I want to talk to you about something amazing that I've recently come across. It's a really cool product called Magic Mind. And what it is it's a drink, somewhat like coffee, but it really helps you more focus during the day. Also gives you a shot of energy. I've been doing it now for a couple of weeks, even a couple of months now, and I feel absolutely amazing during the day. I've never felt more focused than I have after I started drinking Magic Mind. And again, it completely erases my coffee intake during the day. So it's absolutely amazing. Check it out, Magic Mind. I'm going to put a link in the notes of this episode. You guys can get 20% off with a code called Mind Growth 20. Again, I'll put that code in the link of this episode for you guys. Make sure you check it out for yourself and really see how it can change your day and even your life going forward. Yeah. It's a
uh,
game changer. It's just different. You know what I mean? Like I very much still believe that the American dream is still alive. Hey, I know you hear all these people talk about how stuff that you can't do this anymore, but in reality, like you can still go out. You still have the freedom to go out there and make a business and make money with that business if you choose to. Right?
100.
It's
Yep.
very much still alive.
Yep. And it's not easy, but it works, right? A plus B equals C. Like if you're willing to go do the things and you
Yeah.
stay on the, it'll work. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No doubt. And like I said, I've done over 100 of these podcast episodes, and a lot of these entrepreneurs I talk to, it's all like kind of the same thing. They have their business, right? They take the cash flow and invest in the real estate. But I think like
Yeah.
a lot of people that struggle generating that initial cash flow to
Yeah.
put in the real estate. Like you had your sales operation, your sales door to door with point marketing, and that's how you're funding stuff, right? And other people, I
Right.
guess, you go out there and raise capital if you choose to. But let's say someone does have the capital, right, to get started. I mean, how did you learn how to properly invest in real estate though, right? Because that, again, that's a whole nother skill set, a whole nother business that you got to learn. And it's not always going to be a good investment if you just invest in something that could easily flop if you're not careful. It's in the right market, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I guess the first thought to speak to kind of just I'll answer that question, but before that, I would just say I have a lot of people, because they know my story, they'll ask like, how do I go get passive income?
Yeah.
And I think to your point you just made, like, the first thing you should ask is, how do I go get active income that's actually substantial enough to get me in the game,
Yeah.
right? Like, I have sales reps that work for me that'll make 15, 20 grand in a summer, and they're not some of my most high performing sales reps. And they're like, what should I do with this money? Like, how should I invest it? And it's like, dude, you're not gonna, you didn't make enough money
It's not enough.
this
Yeah.
to make an impact, or to have enough laying around to go invest. Like, you need to get a skill set that's developed and strong enough to where you have money laying around to be able to comfortably go and deploy capital, right?
Right.
So the first quest is like your active income. You got to get that right before you can get in the game and start investing.
Yeah.
Then once you're in a position where you have some cash, um, so for me, the strategy we use, which I think is the most simple strategy out there, is the whole live in a two to four units, find a property that has 2 to 4 units, live in one of the units, rent out the other ones. The advantages are you get a lower interest rate, you can put less money down, and you live for cheap while you're living in that property. So it checks a bunch of boxes, allows you to get in the game earlier, and you need less capital to do it. If you don't live in a rental property, you need to put 25% plus down. So we use that strategy nowadays. Because I'm a higher income earner now, I can get away with putting 25% down. I'm in a different phase of my life.
Right.
But I tell people, that house hack strategy is an awesome one. It's not the only strategy that works. You can invest in bigger, like a syndication, or you can be a limited partner in someone else's deals. There are other strategies that are awesome. And it honestly, a lot of it just depends on what's important to you. For me, I kind of wanted to, I began with the end in mind in a big way. And the thing that was important to me was I want cash flow, and I want growth.
Appreciate.
And
Yeah.
sometimes in real estate, people have to choose appreciation or cash flow. And I am on the West Coast, where appreciation is kind of the easier thing to go and get. It's hard to get cash flow nowadays. But if you structure deals right and you get creative, I believe there can be an and there, not an or.
Right.
And so I found a way to get appreciation, buy properties in markets where you can get high appreciation, but also get cash flow. And it takes, there's some creativity that it takes. You need to buy deals right at the right price. In some cases, you need to buy properties that are a little bit more worn down, and then you need to fix them up and create value, and force appreciation, and then restructure the debt or whatever. But I could talk forever on this topic. I would invite listeners to go find mentors and take them out to lunch and ask a lot of questions and take a lot of notes and read books. Bigger Pockets is an amazing resource. I listened to a lot of their episodes, probably 100+ episodes from them. There's a lot of really good real estate content out there and books out there, and I've consumed a lot of that stuff. And so I had enough confidence when I had my first $50,000 to $100,000 saved, to where I didn't feel like I still felt scary, right? But I felt like I at least kind of was competent enough to make my first move.
Yeah. Just enough groundwork where you can actually take that first step without being traumatized on what's going to happen. So I think that's
That's right.
crucial. Yeah. So I want to go into your strategy a little bit because I think a lot of people understand you can do a first time home buyer loan where you can do like a 3% down for the initial payment, right? And as most people can afford that. But now you're
Right.
talking about how you can really transition out of that after like a year and jump into another property. But
Right.
Chris, what are the stipulations around it? Is it just a year you have to be in a property for you to qualify for that loan and that down payment, or how does that work? Because I think if the bank realizes that you're going to leave after like a year and turn into a straight rental property, then I'm not sure that they would love that because now you're not, living there. You don't care as much about it per se in the bank's mind.
So you can get a home, you can have an owner occupied loan and you can live in a property for a year to my knowledge. And these things change all the time, but you can get an owner occupied loan, live in the rental property. I think the wording is that you intend to live in a rental in the house for 1 year's time. And then you can keep that loan in place and you can move to that 30-year loan in place, and you can move out and move on to a new property and get a new primary residence and get a new owner occupied loan. So there's a difference between, there's first time home buyer loans,
Right.
but an owner occupied loan, you're always going to get better lending when you have a primary, when you're treating it as your primary residence. You can put 5% down, which is a big advantage, and generally you get better interest rates. But yes, to my knowledge, it's 1 year of time that you need to live in that building before you go and move into the next one.
Yeah, which makes sense. And people should definitely be taking advantage of that because, like you mentioned, that is a huge cost savings when you can only put 3% down. And probably most of
Right.
the time, the people renting it out are going to pay for your mortgage anyway on top of it. So
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
But yeah, not illegal to move out of that building and move into your next one. Like loan companies, that's the deal, is you occupy the building for as long as they say that you need to, and then you move out and you move on to your next one.
Gotcha. That's good to
You
know.
get that debt that allowed you to get into that property. They don't say, hey, once you move out, we need to refinance this loan or whatever. There's a finite amount of time where they say, we want you to live in this property. We'll give you these terms, live in it for X amount of time, and then you can move on to your next one.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. And another thing I love about you and everything you're doing, obviously, is that you're a faith-based entrepreneur, which I always love to highlight on my podcast episodes. So, looking back on everything that you've seen, that you've done, how have you really seen faith and God kind of play a role in what you're doing?
For me, it's like it's the fuel that feeds all the other parts of my life. Like if my faith is not right, if I don't feel like I'm right with God, then I feel it in the other areas of my life. I feel it with my family life. I feel it in my work. Um, and so like it's number one for me. It always has been. And
Yeah.
so it's like that's the best way that I could summarize it for me, is it's like when I'm aligned with God, I have confidence. I know my identity is set, and it then gives me the power and the confidence to go and win in the other areas of my life. I'm big on like putting an and in sentences. Like I'm just a big believer that God is an abundant God and he wants us to be abundant. And so when I say that, I mean, like, I believe that God wants us to thrive in all areas of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough noise out there and voices out there, candidly, that are probably not living right. And there's a lot of bad examples in this world. And so I want to be someone that is a disciple. I think you can be a dude or you can be a disciple, and I want to be in the disciple camp.
Yeah.
And I want to have an amazing family, and I want to win financially, and I want my health to be amazing. And so I believe in a God that allows us to put and in sentences. And so that's my faith. I'm a Christian. I believe in the Savior. I believe that I've made mistakes in my life and that he bridges that gap for me. And I believe in his grace. And prayer for me is a huge part of my life. And just my faith in God gives me the power to go show up in the other parts of my life.
Yeah, I think that's so spot on. And we don't obviously have to dive too much into this with how much time we have left, but I think a lot
Sure.
of people view entrepreneurship and being wealthy and being Christian as really things that don't go together or can't go together, you know?
Yeah.
But just
Yep.
saying, be able to say and after a lot of those sentences, it just makes a whole lot of sense, right? God wants you to be a Christian and he wants you to be wealthy, right? And that's very possible to have both of those things, all the above.
Yeah.
And like it's not like you're limited to do one or the other one.
Yeah.
That's definitely important to highlight. But yeah, so before we run out of time, I have a couple more questions for you. Looking for ahead for you and your business, what are some of the main goals that you want to get done with you personally and for your business moving forward?
Yeah. So for me, like I want to have bigger impact. I think that's part of the reason why I want to go build out a brand is like I want to go help other people do a similar thing that I've done. I feel for the kid that's like young, that's in high school or college that has lower confidence because maybe they don't win in the traditional school academics sense.
Yeah,
And so it's like that's my person. Like I want to go help that person find confidence through um through other vehicles, right? Whether it be and it may start with their faith in God. For me it did, but like I feel like men want to have need to have a purpose and like feel like they're good at something.
yeah,
Um and so, for me, like I only want to coach where I feel like I have competence, and where I feel like I have competence is in sales, it's in leading people, it's in investing money, and how to do those three things find success in those things. So
yeah,
that for me, the next step in my life is like, how do I go help 100 people become millionaires in their 20s using those three competencies? And so it's fun because I'm a sales leader. I get to help them go acquire the active income. I get to help them scale through leading other people by helping them acquire active income.
hmm,
And then along the way, I invite my people to delay gratification and start investing their money young. So there's like full alignment. I love that I get to kind of be attached to their active income, but also like kind of coach them on investing as well.
yeah. I think that's an amazing purpose, and I think with how confusing I think the world out there is today, I think that's needed more now than ever before. So kudos to
Yeah.
you for that. And yeah. So my last question is then, what would you read your number one book recommendation for anyone listening?
Hmm. Number one book recommendation. Uh, I would say, okay, so two books, but kind of same topic. Um, The Compound Effect, and then I just finished a book called The Slight Edge,
Mm,
and they're like the same. Like they're literally, it's like reading the same book. It's the same
yeah,
principle, just kind of different stories. But the whole point that they both these books drive home is just that an amazing life is built it's built by the inches, and it's built in just the little decisions that we make every day. Should I say a prayer this morning or not? Should I knock the last door of the night or should I not? You know, should I heal up this fight that my wife and I just had, or should I wait to tomorrow till tomorrow? Um,
yeah,
like so both those books I think are so awesome, man. Like I just think that life is about the little decisions. So the Compound Effect and the Slight Edge. I've read the Compound Effect twice over the years, but I just found this new book called The Slight Edge. It's been kind of like similar principles, fun new stories, and good reminder that the inches add up.
yeah. Just foundational stuff for success. That's what it is. And
Yeah.
then last question before we hop off, is there anything else that you would like to say? And if people want to reach out to you, how can they go about and find you?
Um, I think we've covered it, man. I think anyone can win. Anyone can do these things. Like I don't feel like I'm super special. uh, I just feel like there's formulas to success, and everyone has a mountain to climb, and some might be bigger than others, but there are formulas that yield success. And if you'll just stay on the horse and stay in the game, keep being a keep being a good boy, being a good girl, trying your hardest every day, and then you'll look back in 5 to 10 years and you'll reap the rewards of short-term sacrifices. So as far as finding me, I am newly on Instagram, not a lot of traction yet, but at parker.vassau is my Instagram handle. And I do plan on, like, basically within the next month, I'm going to start posting some reels that are like real estate focused, sales focused, leadership focused. And so, yeah, this is a new priority in my life. So I'm excited about it.
Awesome. I'm sure your platform's going to blow up here pretty soon. So that'd be cool to
Uh,
watch. Yeah.
we'll
All right,
see.
guys. There you have it. Parker Vassau, thank you so much for joining me today.
Awesome. Thank you.